in days gone by when the prices fell and the market hit a glut, the workers in this country would have their wages cut. But now there is a different trick that's used throughout the nation. These days they put the prices up, cut wages by inflation. It's speed up shift work and overtime for you. If you want to make a living wage, that's what you've got to do. It really makes me wonder when I hear some people speak and how we fought for the 8-hour day or 40 hours a week. Try to tell us that the country's going broke. It must be all those profits that's causing them to choke. The answer's very simple, the problem can be solved. We'll sack the bloody bosses and have workers in control.
I think we've got to be absolutely clear that there are two sides in society. On the one hand, you have the ruling class. This is a parasitic class which buys our labor as cheaply as possible and sells it at the maximum price. And in the process, they make something like £1,000 million every year. On the other hand, you have the working class. Those of us who work in industry and elsewhere and create the real wealth we see about us. And the profits that the employers make is the difference between the value of the real wealth we create and the wages they pay us. Now, the interests of these two classes are diametrically opposed. There can be no common interest between the exploiter and the exploited. The ruling class will use every possible means to maintain their dominance over the working class. They use the whole state machine to do this. It's true, of course, that in the past they've succeeded in creating the illusion that the state is neutral. In fact, every organ of the state, the civil service, the law courts, the army, and of course the police, are all used to oppress the working class. The role of the police is more obvious than the role of the others. Workers will recognize the role of the police in places such as Roberts Arundel. It's true that during certain periods, the ruling class can maintain a facade of common interest between the classes and even of liberalism. But in practice, they can only do this at certain periods by regulating the economy with unemployment and taxation. There are, however, those other periods of recurring crisis within the system when they will openly attack the working class, moving into rigid state control, if necessary, of the working conditions of the working class and the trade unions. And I believe we are now rapidly moving towards such a situation in Britain. Firstly, there is the general world crisis of imperialism. By that I mean the crisis in which nations such as the United States, Britain, France, and West Germany find themselves. No longer is it possible for these nations to plunder the colonies in the manner in which they did in the past. Their ability to do so is day by day limited by the strength and vigor of the national liberation movement. The very pinnacle of this movement is in Vietnam, where the Vietnamese people have fought the greatest imperialist power in the world to a complete standstill. When the Americans sought to extend the war into Cambodia, share values actually fell. Since they can no longer export the most intense exploitation to the colonies, they will now bring it back onto the shoulders of the metropolitan working class. The same forces that attack the Vietnamese people are the forces that seek to attack us here in Britain.